Okay, welcome back for another episode of Gamified Hacking. First things first, I have to apologize for a little bit of the gap in videos. The last video is maybe 5 or 6 days ago now because I was doing some real world stuff and we just got a new puppy in the real world here at the house, and I was also taking Offensive Security's Web 200 course. For the OSWA certification, the Offensive Security Web Assessor. I did pass, first attempt, super happy. I don't have to take that again, super happy I completed it. Shout out to OffSec for another cool exam. So now we're back to videos, now we're back to the good stuff. So caught up a little bit on sleep, caught up a little bit on real world stuff, and we're back to the videos. So last time, we ended with subdomain enumeration. We got our root domains, we got subdomains, and now we're going to move on to endpoints, and we're going to come back during the exploitation phase and stuff like that, and fuzzing for vulnerabilities. There is stuff you can do with just the subdomain list, but we're saving that for later. So like, yes, can you look for subdomain takeovers and stuff like that with just a subdomain list? Is there some stuff we can look for? Yes, but we're waiting till the actual exploitation phase to make that all make a little more sense. Once we've done all of our recon and gathered all of our stuff, collected everything to play the game, got to go get all the good items, got to go to all the secret items, go do all the secret quests, and then we can play the game to, stick with the theme. So this video is about endpoint enumeration. I kind of got my little script up here on the screen, hopefully, so I can look at the camera a little more and look less at other screens and more at you guys. The first things first is obviously the best thing to do before you do endpoint enumeration, because endpoints are on domains. So the best thing to do before you do endpoint enumeration, weirdly enough, is subdomain enumeration. The more domains you have to do some of this stuff against, the better it's going to be. Because if I've, again, we're going to stick with the GameStop domain for this video just because we're just rolling with it at this point. But again, if I'm only looking for endpoints on GameStop.com, there may be a bunch of them and it may be great. But again, it's those hidden domains, those hidden endpoints on domains, or older endpoints that have been timed out but are still live on domains that really will get you the juicy bugs, will really get you the easy money, however you want to put it, right? So that's really the stuff we're looking for. But you can't do any of this stuff. Well, you can, but you can't do it well until you have that list of domains. So if you didn't watch the last video, or the last two videos, and you don't really need to watch the intro, but I'd appreciate it if you did. But if you haven't watched the last two videos on finding our root domains, getting our scope, that kind of thing, and then taking those scope domains and turning them into as many subdomains as possible for subdomain enumeration, I would recommend you go back, you start there, do that, and then you'll come full circle to here, and that's where we're at today, right? So again, with endpoint enumeration, just like subdomain enumeration, there's two different categories. There's passive, where we're not actually hitting their servers. And then, of course, there's active, where we actually are actively sending requests to their servers, getting responses back, that kind of thing. Now, I'm only talking about a couple of tools today, the tools that I like to use. But of course, there's a lot, and it's personal preference. Go check it out. Go look at GitHub. Go look at what other people are doing on Twitter, what some other content creators are using, all that kind of stuff. This is just what I like using, what I found success using, easiest for me to use, et cetera, right? So that's what we're going to talk about here. So the first step, just like last time, we'll start with passive. Again, there's a lot of services that already do some of this for you, that go out, spider the internet, archive endpoints, all that kind of stuff. There's also stuff like Wayback URLs that works with like archive.org, Alien Vault, URL scan, stuff like that for like archiving the internet. So like what Twitter used to look like when Twitter first came on the internet, you can go see that. And people archived that. Why that would be nice for us is maybe there was an API version 1. Just easy example. API version 1. So /API/v1. Blah, blah, blah. And that had a couple of vulnerabilities, or they moved on from that, or whatever. But that first implementation of the API never got taken down. There's just no more live links directly to it. So even if you're spidering a website, maybe with some of the active stuff, you may never hit a V1 API. You may be hitting V2, V3, whatever's live right now. But the V1 version may have never been taken down. It may still just be sitting there, basically unused, or for reference, or whatever, it may still be there. But these things like archive.org, Alien Vault, like URL scan, some of the stuff that archives and indexes the internet will still keep it there. And these tools that we're going to talk about, the two on the screen right now, Gao and Waymore, right here at the top, are two tools that go passively. So you're not actually hitting the endpoint you're looking at. You're hitting the APIs and these other services. These are basically tools that wrap all these APIs together, wrap all these services together, and just feed you the information, right? You can go try and hit these APIs yourself. You can go automate it yourself. You can go do all that. You can redo it if you want. I've used both of these. Both of these seem to do the job well. I've done a little bit of testing to see if maybe they're missing something or they're not parsing something they could be or getting more information. And there's really not much. I think both of these tools do a good job. The one thing I will say with Gao versus Waymore, and Waymore is like pretty much brand new at the time of this video, and the guy who makes it's super cool guy. He also has the same tool down here that we'll talk about for spidering, XN Link Finder. But the two are a little bit different in the way that Waymore gives you way more, hence the name, results. It pulls responses, you can parse responses, you can spider those responses, etc. So it gives you more information, and actually, as I'll show you, more URLs for our target, at least this time. But Gao is written in Go, there's a little bit of threading, and obviously Go has its own speed implementation there as well. So in my experience, using the two, Gao runs a little faster and finds a little less, where Waymore may find a little more, but runs slower. And if you're on a big domain, like if you're doing like yahoo.com and trying to find endpoints, there's going to be a really big speed difference in the two. But Waymore also, using the right mode, will download the responses of those endpoints, the actual HTML responses, so you can parse it using Trufflehog for secrets, or spider the responses themselves using his other tool, XN Link Finder, and stuff like that. So they're different. They hit the same thing, but do kind of different things. So that's why I'm mentioning them both instead of one, because both of those are really good. Again, preference thing. I'm going to link them all in the description. All the tools I mentioned here will be linked in the description. Go look at them, try them, download them, play with them, find the people on Twitter, message the people on Twitter, talk to them about the tool, do whatever you want to do, get involved. But those are the two tools that I would recommend, and I'm going to show some of the results, and we'll go over that again at the end at demo time. Hopefully the demo gods let us. Again, the passive stuff, just like subdomains and everything else, there is always search engine scraping. Google, Shodan, stuff like that, Census, I think, etc. Also, PS, time of this writing, we just passed the time period of getting your $5 Shodan membership for life. It was $5, and you're a lifetime Shodan member. I think you get like 10 times the search queries or 10 times the searches or whatever, and it was all for $5, and it's forever. I know I personally went and made like 2 or 3 accounts, $15. I have 3 new API keys. So if you don't, maybe find a friend that does, or if not, I mean, full price is still way worth it. Again, Shodan is pretty amazing. We'll probably talk about that later in a different video. I might put all the search engine stuff. We've mentioned it like 2 or 3 times now, and I've just buzzed over it. So I might just take all of the dorking, search engine, GitHub dorking, whatever, and just put it all in one video at some point, like a little side note. Because I don't do it a whole bunch myself, except if I get bored or I'm just like messing around. I am that guy that's just sitting around with friends having drinks and just start dorking stuff on Google. But hey, that's just me. So we talked about passive. Now, second way is active, right? So we're actively hitting the server now. So this is where you kind of want to watch out, right? You start seeing some weird requests during some of this stuff. Akamai, Cloudflare, like if you're getting blocked, like this is, you kind of have to pay attention during this stuff, especially if you're automating it. Some of these tools have stuff in place where you can it will sense and test and warn you, or you can have it stop if it notices it's getting blocked. But always keep that in mind when you're going on a target. Once you start actively hitting them, especially with some of this endpoint enumeration stuff, some targets are very locked down, or like a certain number of requests and stuff like that. You're just blocked. You can get your whole IP blocked. Like it just turns out to be a mess. So pay attention when you're doing that. There's VPNs to help you out. There's all that kind of stuff. Also make sure maybe you're not doing this at 1,000 requests or thousands and thousands of requests per second or something dumb. Also, there's other tools to make it where you're sending a couple thousand requests kind of all at once. I think Tom Nom Nom made a tool called Meg that does that. But anyway, active ways. There's really just two ways that I do it. One is spidering, actually hitting a site, getting the HTTP response, so let's just say GameStop.com, which is what we're going to do. Hit GameStop.com, read the response for web forms, script tags, anything like A tags, anything, and grab anything out of the response where, like, on the normal page, if I'd click this button, I'll go to, awesomegames.gamestop.com. Well, that will be in the HTML response, right? So the spider will click that, and you can have it do it recursively. You can have it do it to a certain depth. You can have them do all that kind of stuff where it will then go to that link, grab the response, find it, find links, and it'll spider out, right? Hence spider. And you can do that as intensely or not intensely as you want to, depending. The two tools I've ever used to spider was Hackcrawler, is what I was using before by HackLuke. And I just recently did switch over to XN Link Finder again. I know Jason Haddock's talked about it, and I've talked to the guy who's made it quite a bit. Super cool. I've used it quite a bit. I think it works really nice. But again, go check them out. I'll put the links for both. There will be similarities. There will be differences. They all have different filters, different functionalities, etc. I won't go into that too much because it really is just a personal preference thing at the end of the day, what kind of tool you like and thinks works the best for you. But those are the two tools I've used for spidering. The second thing for active would be brute forcing, right? Just like subdomains, we talked about brute forcing subdomains, it's the same exact thing. And I'll show you the command, but you're literally just going GameStop.com/thing, GameStop.com/other thing, and you're just testing to see if that endpoint may or may not be there. There's no link to it on the page. You have no idea whether it's there or not. You're just sending the request and seeing if, the endpoint happens to be there. Now, just like with subdomains, and especially with endpoints, your word list choice is like an art form in itself, which is kind of why I put that little blurb there at the bottom. We're going to show AssetNote here in a second. That's a super good place to go. Also, I think I mentioned this last time, but Jason Haddock's just put out the newest version of bug bounty hunter methodology that's actually app analysis, and he does a good solid chunk of that on word list choice, and it's super good, super good information. So if you haven't seen the whole thing, go see the whole thing. But there's also a part on content discovery and brute forcing, and a lot of this stuff is also on there. And word list choice is a blurb, and he is very good at explaining picking a good word list to fit your needs, because that is the best way to do it, to find something that other people aren't finding. So now, again, we're going to pull this up. I had to look how to zoom in there, but I got it because I'm trying to make the words bigger. But this is AssetNote, right? So it would actually look like this at the top. And when you go to this right here, you can see wordlist.assetnote.io. You're presented with this. There's automatically generated word lists, which is basically just spidering the internet and trying to download endpoints, from what I understand. Kite Runner is for their tool that's developed by AssetNote, Kite Runner. This is the one that I think Jason Haddock mentions the most, and that I kind of play around with the most. This is basically like technology mapping word lists, right? So let me scroll down. So like Apache. This is a word list that's like, it's still the HTTP archive, like it's still just spidered stuff, but it's strictly spidered Apache servers and what was found on Apache servers at, whatever date was put here, right? So it's super. So if you're testing an Apache server, but you still want to run just random, endpoints that have been found commonly across the internet, you can go to the most common, 2002-06-28, right, is probably the most common word list here, and you can put it on there. And as you can see, the line count here is probably going to be how many things are in that word list. This Apache one alone, for just Apache from the most recent one, has quite a few things in it, right? So you've probably got pretty good coverage for an Apache server with something like this, right, if you're just doing brute forcing. But again, there's a good chance you could be sending this many or more requests. So if they have stuff in place that's going to IP block you, and you send that many requests really fast, that's like 1.5 million. you're not going to have a good time. So again, just keep track of that. Okay, and again, here are some of the tools we used, or we're going to use. Again, Gal right here. I'll link it in the description. Way more right here by XNL Hacker. Right, Link Finder by XNL Hacker. And then FFUF, again, it's just going to be the tool that I use to brute force. There's a shitload of them, but this is the one that you want to use to brute force, right? Now, just like subdomains, I'm going to wrap it up with some demos here and some results. So we're in our endpoint video, and I grabbed a couple things. So first of all, here's some of the commands we ran. This is how I actually found stuff, right? So I have GameStop GAO URLs. I have the spidered URLs in which I used XML Link Finder to spider. Just basic generic stuff. I didn't put any extra, the GAO list. I did put a blacklist in with just like PNG files, JPEG files, whatever. If you look on their GitHub, you'll see what I'm talking about, because I don't care about endpoints that end in images and stuff like that. But these are just like the generic commands that I used to get these 3 or 4 text files, right? And all of them, as you can see, I just put your generic GameStop.com in, just the generic domain. The only one I didn't go do is brute forcing. Again, but this is exactly what it would look like. So if you wanted to go grab that HTTP archive list here, download it, click download on your Linux machine, put your path to it right in here, GameStop/fuzz, go, and you're done. And you can, filters, matchers, whatever you want to do with brute forcing, but I didn't do that as an example because it's just brute forcing. But so let's peek at what we have here. So first things first is running GAO. Again, it's entirely passive. So without even touching the server yet, just running GAO and going against those APIs, I think you'll be surprised. So if I word count this list, and every list should probably, every line should probably be an endpoint, right? Is how it outputs. It found me about 1.8 million endpoints. I haven't touched the server yet. 1.8 million endpoints without touching the server. That's pretty, and that's one domain. So if you remember how many domains we found and how many domains you can find, if you imagine, how many domains you can find on like a Yahoo or a Verizon or some of these huge bug bounty platforms, one GameStop domain gave me 1.8 million endpoints. And again, I had filters in place, so none of these should be images or PNGs or static files at all. Right? And you can look at it. Well, I'll start looking at it at least. I'll probably cancel it half the way, but when you go here, there's all kinds of different stuff. And now one thing you'll notice here is like, wait a minute, all of these look like basically the same, right? Now, granted, I'll go over it once we're done with recon and we start moving in exploitation. There's a bunch of different tools that you can use to filter these and combine them and combine like ones and kick out ones that are not interesting, like ones that don't have parameters or ones that are just static. So you could filter these all down to one endpoint, right? Because a lot of these are probably all the same functionality, even though they're different endpoints, right? But overall, even if you filter these, you're going to end up with a lot of endpoints, right? So the next one, we looked at the GAO one. Now again, GAO, in my personal experience, I guess you'd call it, runs a little faster than Waymore since I've started using Waymore. But if we line count Waymore, we got way more. So it's the same thing passively, and it's still using a lot of the same resources, if not the same resources, to get the URLs as GAO. It just goes deeper and takes more time and paginates and does everything to get you as many URLs as possible. And again, I didn't go through downloading any of the responses because it would have tried to download the response to all of these endpoints. But you can do that and do a bunch of interesting things with the endpoints. But again, you would end up with, you end up with the same type of thing here. Whoop. That's not what I want to do. Let's cat that instead. Perfect. And then stop it. So same thing. We got a bunch of links here for a bunch of different stuff. Again, you can go try and find just the endpoints that have parameters or endpoints that have certain You can try and match endpoint. You want WordPress endpoints, you can go grep it and try and find WordPress endpoints. You can do a bunch of different things with all this stuff, right? So, and that's all passively. So we have millions and millions and millions of endpoints to go over and filter and do a bunch of other stuff too, especially with automation if you want to go that route, to narrow it down and find ones we're only interested in, all that stuff. But that's a pretty big list just start with, right? Now, same thing. I'm going to spider, and this list will be much shorter because I just did depth of 1 is just spidering one page. But I use XN Link Finder to spider just GameStop.com. And I think it gave me about 400 links. So, right, some of these links are just to different, different directories and different links on the page. And if I had the depth of like 2, let's say, it would go visit this link and spider that as well, right? So that's the depth of 2. You went to the first page, spidered it. It would take all these. I think there was like 400 results here, I want to say. Yeah, so it would go to all 404 of those and spider those pages as well, right? And try and find new unique ones to then spider if you want to go even deeper, right? But, so that was just spidering one page. Again, if you go from depth of 1, like I have here, to even just like depth 2, your endpoints obviously will exponentially, because you go from spidering one HTML page to now approximately 400 after that, right? So your endpoint results will exponentially go higher with spidering. Again, do it at your own risk. So that's pretty much all I have. Again, I didn't mess around with brute forcing because it's very straightforward. The demoing of it would just be you watching me brute force. Go to AssetNote, go to SecList, find a word list that works for you, put it in. I use FFUF. There's a bunch of them out there. Kali Linux, I think, comes with a bunch of them by itself. GoBuster is another good one. WFuzz is another good one. Ferrex Buster is written in Rust. That's another good one. I mentioned Jason Haddix. I think that's his new favorite recently, and I think he talks about that in Bug Bounty Hunter Methodology, the newest one. So that's one to check out too. I haven't used it yet, but it's one to check out. Now, at this point, once we get past this point, we should have a good amount of stuff to play with. There's still some information gathering we can do. We can still get, HTTP codes. We can still get server titles. We can get technology stacks. We can get all kinds of stuff. But that starts to get into the point of actually sticking your fingers and stuff and seeing what's out there. We've now kind of hit the point in our game where we have all the tools, have all the weapons, we've collected all the stuff we need to collect to now really start to play the game. This is where the game kind of gets interesting and you can start looking at stuff, right? So now we're going to start, at this point, going into a few different niche things of what can I do with all this information to maybe give me an edge in bug bounties or give me, just a leg ahead of someone else. And then after that kind of stuff, the niche stuff, we'll go into the basic exploitation. We'll pull up Burp Suite and we'll pull up a bunch of stuff and we'll start looking at stuff and how to get into it and how to find bugs. So thanks a lot if you've made it this far. Thanks for watching. Again, feedback, comments, like, subscribe. Please connect with me, message me, tell me what you think, tell me what you need to see, what you don't want to see. If I'm talking too long, tell me. I want to get involved with you guys. I want to talk to you guys. I hope I'm getting a little bit better at the camera etiquette thing. I hope I'm getting a little bit better at making these videos worthwhile. But I'd love to hear from you guys. So thanks again for sticking around. Peace.